Hi there, welcome back to Redesigned Rose. If you're new here, my name is Jen. I'm so glad you have joined me today. We're going to learn how to create this amazing blanket. It is the easiest, the quickest, the softest, squishiest blanket you can imagine. This blanket has actually been through the wash already and the dryer 2 or 3 times, I believe. I made this a couple of months ago, and it has unfortunately taken me this long to get my tutorial up. I do apologize for the wait. For those of you who have reached out and you have been waiting, I apologize for the delay, but here it is. I want to walk you through not only how easy it is, the few supplies that you're going to need, and also how to customize this blanket to your liking. Not only did I love this blanket so much, but my girls absolutely loved it as well, and they were all fighting over it, and I couldn't fit 4 little girls under one blanket, so I did need to create another one, but I thought I would do one that complemented the one that is mostly the cream with the green stripes, and did a little reversal with just a little bit of change. I'll show you some full-size pictures with that in just here in a moment, but just wanted to show you, I think I worked up these blankets in a matter of about 4 or 5 hours, and it is a good size blanket. For this project, you're only going to need a few supplies. We're going to need a tapestry needle or darning needle to weave in our ends. I know we don't like those words in crochet, but we do have to weave in our ends. I'm going to show you how to keep them at a minimum, and also how to keep them on one side. It's only going to be where our color change stripes are, so not to worry, it's not overbearing. 8mm crochet hook, pair of scissors, which are actually a little bit optional, to be honest with you. The yarn that I am using is this Bernat blanket yarn. It's a dream to work with. It's super soft, it's gentle on your hands. The texture can make it, sometimes make it a bit tricky to see stitch details, but it's also great at hiding imperfections. The bulkiness of this yarn is gonna mean that this is gonna work up really fast. And the finished blanket, it's just so warm. You're gonna enjoy this for years to come. The yarn also comes in a super wide variety of colors. The sky is the limit. You can provide, or you can choose shades that match your home decor. You can customize the placement of the color stripes. You can adjust the overall size of the blanket, the width, the number of color stripes. I'm gonna show you exactly how to do all of that so that you can really make this blanket your own. I do like the way that this turned out, the way the stitch combined with that 8mm hook and this yarn just provides that kind of a dense stitch, so there's not giant holes in between each of the stitches. You're still gonna get some, that's crochet, but we're gonna keep those to a minimum so that they are nice and dense and creates more of a solid fabric. Now the colors that I chose, this one and this here, are in what's called whipped cream, and this one is a smoky green. Now I have used up all of this amazing smoky green, so I'm going to substitute this brown in here, which is called taupe. So for this project, we'll go ahead and start with a slip knot. We're going to put that around our hook. Now, before I learned how to do this, and probably like many of you, I started all of my blankets by doing the foundation chain, like so, and then working my first row across. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever, but I did notice that when I was doing that, my foundation chain itself was always a little looser, because as I started working up my stitches, I tend to work a little more on the tight side. So it just kind of made my chain hang a little looser than I wanted it to. So one of the ways to get around that is by doing the single crochet foundation chain. Now I'm going to go ahead and work up a small swatch, because creating an entire blanket on a tutorial would put you to sleep. I don't want you to do that. I want you to be excited and see how this goes. but you can work up your full blanket right along with me, even though I'm only working up a small swatch. So for the full-size blanket, I did do a single crochet foundation chain of 113 stitches. And each and every row for the entire blanket is going to work up 113 stitches across. For the tutorial, for my swatch, I'm just gonna work up 12. And so to start that foundation chain, I'm gonna work up 2 chains. Then I'm going to go into this first chain here with my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both to complete a single crochet. I know, it looks silly right now. Don't worry, stay with me. So what that does is creates, if you see, if I'm holding it this way, I've got these 2 vertical bars here. I want to go into this bar on my left. I'm gonna put my hook in there, yarn over, and I'm just gonna pull a loop up through that one bar. Then I'll yarn over, and now I'll pull through both. And then I'm gonna do that again. Here's that left-hand bar, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop just through that loop, yarn over, pull through both. And I just continue this until I get my 12 single crochet foundation chains. And as you can see, this is working up a very bulky foundation chain, and that's just fine. That's exactly what we want, because it's going to be a much more substantial chain to build on with our heavier blanket stitches that we're about to make. So here is what our single crochet foundation chain looks like. Don't worry about this end being just a little bit bigger. It's going to blend in very nicely when we're done, I promise. But it just creates something a little thicker, again, to hold our next row of stitches a little better. At the end of every row, end of this row, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Now for the first row and every row hereafter, we're going to go into the very first stitch. And this is where our stitch for the blanket begins. So it's worked as a single crochet, but it's just worked a little bit differently. A single crochet, we would go in through our front and back stitch. Okay, and this is where it gets a little tough with that texture, but you're gonna get used to it by the time you're done, I promise. Go in through the front and the back. You would yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both. That's your traditional single crochet. But for this blanket, to get this almost herringbone effect here, we're going to do that just a little bit different. We'll still insert our hook through the front and back loop, but this time we're just going to yarn under. We're going to grab that yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both. And then it starts to create that diagonal bar that we want so much. Each and every stitch, we're going to insert our hook, make sure that this working yarn is under, pull up your loop, yarn over, pull through both. We'll go in through the next one, insert your hook, grab your yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both. We're going to do the same thing all the way down in each and every stitch. Yarn over, pull through both. Next one, yarn under, pull up, yarn over, pull through both. Okay, next, right in here. We're just gonna keep going. And so again, if you wanna work up the full size blanket along with the tutorial, you would simply keep going on your first row here, all the way down 113 of these stitches. And put me on pause, work that up, and then when you're done, you come meet me here at the end where we're gonna make sure that we go into that last stitch. Make sure you have 113, or I will also make sure that I have 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. As long as you're doing that, that's what's gonna help create this blanket and make it super straight on all of the edges. So once again, we'll chain 1, turn our work. And this will actually become the right side of our blanket, and I'll show you what that means here in just a minute. So we want to go in right away to that very first space, yarn under, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both. We'll go through the next one here. Same thing. You see how easy this is? And if you'll notice just how much height we're getting just from 2 rows. So that tells you that this blanket works up real quick. Plus, I like the fact that it's such an easy repetitive pattern, 1 stitch all the way through. The only time you really need to kind of pay attention is when you're going to do your color changes, but it's a great blanket to watch a movie to while you're making, because you can just essentially go on autopilot a little bit. And so here we want to make sure we've got 1, 2 more stitches. Okay, and if you're lost again, just make sure you're counting. But you want to make sure we go into that very end. And then that is only 2 rows. Again, we'll chain 1 and turn. And then we always want to go into that very first space and continue to work our rows. So once again, we've got 1, 2 more spaces. Now, if I stopped here, it would look funny because obviously it's not my last stitch. So complete that very last one, chain 1, turn our work. Now, as you saw, it takes 2 rows to create this, what I actually count these rows by this. This takes 2 rows to make. So here I've got 1, this is our border. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's how, when I refer to the rows, I'm referring to the groups of 2. All right, so I'm gonna work up 1 more row, and then I'll show you how we do a color stripe row, which again will be 2 rows of crocheting to make that 1 thick color stripe row. So if you'll notice, we've got the chain, our group of 2 and our group of 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and work 2 rows of a color change, color stripe, and it's gonna allow me to leave all of my tails on this side of the blanket. This is the only tail that will be over here. We're gonna crochet right over that when we do our border, so we won't have to weave that one in, but our color stripes and tails will all be right over here. An alternative as well, if you don't want to snip these off and weave them in at the end, you can carry the yarn up, but because the border is going to cover most of it, but because there was such a large space between my color stripes, I didn't want to keep carrying it up that high on the side. I was just afraid it was going to peek through my work, and I wasn't crazy about that. So it is easier to go ahead and cut off these, to cut these off and go ahead and weave them in. All right, so because I'm going to do a color stripe, I'm going to pull out this last stitch that I did. So I now only have 11, you'll have 112. And what you'll do is you'll start to work your stitch, pulling up a loop, but you're not going to finish it. You're going to leave that. Then you're going to take on your new color, put it over the hook, and pull that through to complete the stitch. Another great thing about this type of yarn is it does hang on to itself fairly well. So if you just give this a little tug, it's going to hold that in place and it's not going to slip out while you're working it. Then we'll do our chain 1 and turn our work. And just like we did before, we're going to go into that very first space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both. And this is where we just continue to work the stitches the same way we have been, just with a new color. We'll work this all the way down until I have 12, and if you're just doing the swatch, you'll also have 12. If you're doing the blanket, again, you'll have 113. Go into that last space, don't forget that one. Yarn over, pull through both, and again, chain 1 and turn our work. Then we'll work one more row so that these color stripes again are groups of 2. And work this all the way across. See how fast that goes? And look how much height we already have for this swatch. Oops. And again, don't forget that last space. Now I'm going to go back to my whipped cream, so I don't want to finish that stitch. Go ahead and snip that off. Then I'll take my whipped cream, put it back over my hook, and pull it through to complete the stitch. And then I'll take my tail again, just give that a tug to secure that down, chain 1, and turn my work. And as you can see, that's going to keep all of my tails on this side of my project. Now you're only going to have these groups of tails where you have a color stripe. So if I work up, another 6 or 7 row groupings, I'll have height like this, and then I'll have another little group of tails. So as you can see, it's not going to be overwhelming. Don't you worry. All right, so once again, go in right into that very first space. And just continue to work these yarn under single crochets. I'm going to that very last one, but I got to make sure I go through both that front and back loop. And this just keeps everything nice and squared off. And you can see the border that it creates is not terrible. You don't have to put a color border around your blanket if you don't want to. If you want to continue just leaving it like this, you absolutely can. That's your choice. Again, these are customizable any way you like. Switch your colors, do a color stripe every other row, every 3 rows, whatever you like to do, whatever makes you happy. We'll chain 1 and turn right into the first space. And we'll just continue just like we have been. I did choose to do the color border just because I wanted to bring a little bit more of my color stripe color into the blanket, if that makes any sense. And don't forget the very last one. Yarn over, chain 1. I'm gonna work up 2 more rows here, and then we'll do another color change so I can show that to you one more time. Once again, chain 1, turn our work, and again, I just love how straight all of these edges seem to stay with this type of stitch. All right, so again, I won't finish that very last one. Go ahead and snip that off. Bring in my taupe. Pull that through to finish. Tighten that down just a little bit. And then I will chain 1 and turn my work. And then we'll work 2 more rows for this color stripe. Now, as you work up the blanket, your blanket's not going to be sliding around and flip-flopping like this. It just does that because I'm trying to hold it up on the table to show you. And it is such a small swatch. But as you work up your blanket, it's going to have the weight to it that's going to stay in place a little bit better. A lot better, actually. And you won't have to worry about it flopping around like a fish out of water. All right, once we're at the end, again, chain 1 and turn, and we'll come on back down, and we'll come on back down this final row. Now, however you choose to customize your stripes, the only thing that you're going to want to remember is you don't want to start your border or finish your last rows with a color stripe. And the reason being is if you do finish with a color stripe and then do the border with that same color, it's just going to make this stripe look bigger on the top than everywhere else around your blanket, if that makes sense. So after your color stripe, you want to do 1 more set of your base color and then take your color stripe and go around. I hope that makes sense. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. All right, so go into this last one. Snip that off. Bring back my whipped cream, pull that in, and I'm going to tighten that down. Chain one and turn. So again, there are those groups of tails that I'll need to deal with before my blanket is done. So now that I've done a color stripe, I want to go ahead and do 2 more rows of my base color, and then I'll show you how to do the border. That way there is separation from this stripe and the border. So I'm at the end of the row, and again, I'm not going to complete that stitch because I do use my color stripe color for the border as well. So once again, place that on, pull it through, and take my yarn and tighten that down. Now I've got my working yarn. I'll go ahead and chain one, turn my work just as I have been. Now I'm going to go ahead and work a single crochet all the way down, a regular single crochet. So this time my yarn is going to be on top, pull up my loop, and all the way around. And one single crochet in each and every stitch. You see that? You're gonna be so used to doing the yarn under, it's gonna be hard to go back to regular yarn over single crochet. And so by doing this, you have that separation between your stripe before you start your border. And I just think it makes it look a little nicer, again, rather than starting your border right here. All right, so for this last stitch, we're going to work 3 single crochets so we can start to climb that yarn around the corner here. And I do like to start to turn. There's 1. There's 2, and I'll kick that around and turn it just so I can kind of help guide this yarn where it needs to go. And so this creates that really pretty corner instead of pulling it in too tight if we didn't do this. And then if it is too tight, it'll actually start to curl up like this, and we don't want that. So now what I'll do is go ahead and place a single crochet into each and every one of these spaces. So I'm lining up as I'm going this way, this space. I'm lining up as I go right here, all the way down so that it matches up with the bottom of this row, the center of this row, and the top of this row. I've got that corner, 1, 2, 3. So that's technically my first stitch in this row. So now I'll go right in here. Oops. And I'll single crochet each and every space. And just remember, you want to keep it a little looser rather than tighter so that you don't start to make your work curl up a little bit. See how that does that? You can kind of stretch that back out now before everything gets done up too tight. We're going to go all the way down this row. Okay, and then we're coming up on this corner. This was our foundation chain, single crochet foundation chain and our slip knot. So right here in this space, we're going to work, again, 3 single crochets. We're going to go right over that knot. There's 1, there's 2. And again, I like to turn it as I go. And there's 3. So now that knot is sitting very happily right here in that corner. And then as I mentioned before, I'll go ahead and lay this beginning tail right across the side here. And now we're going to go into each one of the foundation stitches and work our single crochet. And we're going to work right over that tail. Lets it hug everything in nice and tight, and we won't have to weave that one in later. Okay, and so once again in that very corner, we'll work 3 single crochet. So that does lay down nicely. So you, on the top and the bottom of your blanket, you should have the same number of stitches across for the full blanket, 113, and then your corner stitch, and then the stitch for this side. So just to show you, here's the last stitch on this side and my corner. Then I began 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So here is my corner stitch, and then here's the first one of this row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then there's my corner stitch and my first stitch of this row. Same thing here. So I had my 3 in the corner. So this is the first one for here. There's that corner stitch. First one of this row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, plus my corner. Now for the final side of the blanket with all of the tails, we're going to do the same thing that we did over here in each one of these spaces, and we're just going to pretend like those tails are not there. Just going to keep crocheting, happy right along. There's one of the tails. Just pretend like it is not there. We'll crochet right on top of it. We'll kind of pull that out of the way. If they get bunched up in your stitch, just kind of pull them out so that they do stay straight. Now we're at the next group of tails. Just keep going. Don't let them boss you around. Okay, so here is that last stitch. So once again, we've already got the third one in there. So I'm just going to place 2. And that's going to be the final stitch for this row plus the corner, because this one is already done. That was the beginning. If we did 3 stitches in this final corner, it would actually end up putting 4, and it would look a little funny. Then we're going to grab the top of that very first single crochet we did, and we'll slip stitch that to join. Joining this kind of yarn is also a dream because, again, it does hang on to itself really well. So all I do is tie a regular knot, tighten it really tight, and then can trim this off right at the knot, because you would have to actually break this yarn before that knot is going to come out. So last round of the border, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to work a half double crochet into each and every stitch. And as you can see, that knot went really nicely right down inside. so it'll never be seen again. So to do that half double crochet, yarn over first, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. And this is where we really get the height on that border. And it's really important to work these a little looser than you would think, just because we don't want to tighten with this type of yarn. It really is hard to not do it too tight. So here is our corner stitch. So the same thing we want to do is 3 stitches into that corner stitch. We want to keep our corners nice and big and rounded off and beautiful. There's 1, same space, whoops. There's 2, get a little more slack here. And, oops, there's 3. Now I can continue to go down this row. And as you can see, I do kind of angle my hook up to pull through all of those loops. Just kind of, again, helps guide that stitch where it's supposed to go. And you can see that's just creating that really nice, thick, substantial border that I think this blanket deserves. Okay, once again, I'm at my corner. So I do want to find that very corner stitch. If it helps, you can also do stitch markers, but I think this is big and chunky enough where I don't think you'll need them. It's pretty easy to identify where that corner stitch is. Okay, I'm now in the 3rd corner. So once again, there's 1, 2, and 3. And then the side with the tails, nothing new. Same thing all the way across. And our final corner, once again, we'll just place 2. Find the top of that first half double crochet and slip stitch that to join. Snip that off, pull that to tie that knot. Okay, I won't bore you with weaving in every one of these tails on camera, but I will show you how I do weave in at least one. And yes, this yarn can be a little tricky to get through your needle, but it's not too bad. At least it does give you something to grab onto. Now, the only thing you do want to remember, of course, is when you're weaving in your tails, weave the tail into the same color as the tail. Don't weave this through the darker color stripe. And the thing to remember, there's no real rhyme or reason how to do this, but the only advice I can give is that the more you can go in opposite directions, and I always do like to try to find where the stitches are the tightest to pull that through. By remembering those 2 things, you're gonna be able to keep these tails where they belong. That's the other thing about this yarn, is it really hides really well. This one is a nice tight spot. So I'll go ahead, weave that through, and then simply snip off the end. And then that tail is gone forever. So that is it. Obviously, to finish the blanket, you want to weave in the rest of your groups from each of your color stripe rows and your beginning tail, and then enjoy your blanket. I I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. If you want to share your projects, you can always send me a photo through Instagram. You can direct message me there at Redesigned Rose. I love to see your projects. I'm also on Facebook as well. You can do Facebook Messenger if you don't have Instagram. I would love to see your finished projects, and let me know what you think about this blanket in the comments below. And also, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. It really, really does help this channel grow. I appreciate you, and happy crocheting.